Hi and welcome to Dynamics Update. It's been a long summer, and we have had a chance to have some time off, which means that we are back and full of energy. Me, of course, Johan Persson, and my colleague Gustav Sundblad. Hello, Gustav.
Hello, Johan. Well rested, I hope.
Yes, I am well rested.
Nice to hear. Yeah, me too.
Fantastic.
And it takes about a week to get back to like full functionality. But it's been 3 weeks now, so I'm back in the mix.
Yes, that's good. That's good. So we are back and are going to talk about, of course, the new release notes. We have had an episode during summer for 44. Unfortunately, due to some planning mistakes, it came out after 44 was released. But hopefully, someone had a chance to look at it and have some benefit from it anyway.
Yeah. And hopefully,
But
although we do enjoy you guys listening to the podcast, we also hope you actually read through the release notes yourselves because Johan and I are very technical, and we might miss some of the fancy functional stuff that you love.
yes, of course. So let's get started. Gustav, you have the honors today to start.
Thank you. It's a big honor for me. Thank you. And there was a lot of small, nice features and some big features, of course, in this release. I think I'm going to start off with no particular order here, with a feature called Customer Invoice Logging Framework for Sales Order and Free Text Invoice History Tracking. It's a mouthful.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Definitely, it should be an abbreviation, but it's in preview. But it's let's make it into a summary. It's basically a structured logging framework. It's tracks the life cycle of customer invoice documents. Basically, it's a very nice little log page for how did yesterday's batch job posting or manual posting, for that matter, go. It sits on the actually one of the nice things about having an environment of your own. I was going to say, but a possibility to spin up an environment very easily is that you can try out these features or at least evaluate them more than what the release notes are saying once it's released for preview. I mean, so I was able to, before the podcaster, to try out a couple of these, and this was one of them. And basically, I mean, what it does is it gives you a nice little new tab in the customer invoicing workspace, which lists all of the executions of posting of invoices. So if you have, which many companies do, automated batch invoicing during daytime or nighttime, doesn't really matter. It gives you a nice little workspace where you see, okay, how many sales orders were posted in this. It also lists if any errors occurred within that batch job. And you can click on the error so you can find the sales. So it has a link basically to help you see what went wrong, if anything, which is very nice. I mean, I've seen processes where you have to rely on automated telemetry. You need to go into the batch jobs or just, I mean, look at all the sales order statuses. But this gives you a centralized view of sales orders as well as free text invoice posting history. So if you have a lot of people working with that, I suggest you look into the preview.
Yes, and I mean, I really appreciate the fact that a lot of monitoring becomes available to the end users because
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, before I've seen like cases where someone had to call IT and they needed to check in BizTalk to verify if the invoice was sent or not. And I mean, that's not a very good user experience, I think. So having the
No.
possibility to see this without having to talk to someone also takes a lot of noise away from IT, which is a good thing. So
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, invoicing can be a bit scary. I mean, it depends on the scenario. If you're invoicing 10 orders a day, sure, probably manual work. But a lot of customers out there do thousands and thousands of orders per day. So you need to focus on the 3 that went wrong and fix them.
yep.
And then, I mean, you can never beat telemetry. You can build very, very fancy dashboards, but this is a way to give users a nice little log in a workspace that they hopefully work in already.
Yep. Good. So my first one is on the technical side, and it also has a bit to do with logging. Although this logging is sort of the opposite version. It's the one that is hidden from the end users forever and ever. So we've been talking before about application insights. Application insights is a standardized monitoring framework that Microsoft has in Azure, and F&O has since a while back had options to monitor things, to send monitoring logs to application insights. Unfortunately, it's not generic because Microsoft still needs to build the logging functionality into each module and have it send data depending on what happens. You can do it yourself. You can build your own customizations to actually log things that are important to you in application insights. And I think the most important thing with application insights is that everything else in Azure also logs to application insights, which means that you get a single pane of glass to be able to see integration components, CRM, F&O, external warehouse systems. They all log to the same place, which means that you get a common timeline for all of the logs, which is really, really important.
Yeah, if you set it up that way, right? I mean, I love application insights. I use it daily in all projects. I mean, it's my go-to place to figure out what went wrong or why did my order not arrive from my integration. I can just go to application insights. I can paste an order number, and it gives me a nice. Sometimes it can be overwhelming as well. You might get like 40 different log entries for the same order, right? But for me, I get relaxed when I see those 40 records. I'm like, nice. Now I can track.
But I mean, with all other monitoring, it's all about finding the balance between the noise and the useful stuff. So I mean, it is important when you use application insights to set it up in a way where you have dashboards and views which actually filter out the noise.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, most of the logs you are never going to look at. You are only going to look at them when something goes really wrong and you notice it. And if you find out that something went wrong, then you can actually build a dashboard to make sure that the next time you won't have this issue. You will see it when it goes wrong the next time. But it's sort of, you need to figure out that there is a problem before you can make use of application insights the first time. And then you can build alerts or logs or dashboards or whatever to filter it out and to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you should enable logging anyway, because normally it depends on how you use the system. So disclaimer here, the cost is still something you need to be mindful of. But in general, logging is not a high cost resource, just getting the logs in, because storage is cheap, right? So establish that telemetry, because then you have even if nothing is going wrong, everything is going fantastic, then you have a baseline of what is fantastic, and from which you can actually draw conclusions, right? So it's not only to monitor things that are going wrong, it's also for me to be like, get a feel of how my system is going right now, and that gives at least gives me and monitoring a lot of
I mean, being able to at a glance see if the system is working well or not, that's perfect.
Yeah.
To the feature in itself, in this case, it's actually monitoring of batch jobs, and this is a bit fun and interesting, because batch jobs are a bit tricky, because you can look at the batch job and see it looks like everything went well, everything went perfect, and when you look at the detailed logs, you realize that everything went to hell and back.
Yes,
because nothing worked. But the batch job says that everything worked, and everything worked fine. So there are actually things in the batch jobs that you can only easily surface using application insights, because you can create triggers on certain batch jobs, which means that you raise them up and make them visible.
Yeah.
And this feature is released in 10.0.45, but it's also backported to 10.0.44. So if you're on 44, then you can also enable this. There used to be like a code release that Microsoft released over GitHub, which you needed to get this. So you could actually put it in anyway.
It's kind of like ISM telemetry that you had to but that you can import to get additional logs.
Yes. So with that said, more visibility and more logging is a good thing, especially since the LCS telemetry is going away more and more. Being able to see things is a good thing. So if
Definitely.
if you haven't started using application insights, you should absolutely take a look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the batch jobs are still at the heart of ERP and our favorite ERP. They're not going away. They have a purpose in life. And I've seen customers with thousands of batch jobs, and they are critical, right? But sometimes some of these 1,000 batch jobs or whatever might not be as important as the other. But again, gaining that insight and logging your critical batch jobs is definitely an important thing to do.
Yes. So you are next.
Oh, it's my turn. So I need to get used to the tennis here, back and forth after summer holidays, right? No, but I looked. One of my favorite tools has always been, since it was released, the electronic reporting framework, and it has a little bit of a learning curve to come into. So it can be a little bit scary unless you. There's so many features and functionality available in ER, so it can be a little daunting unless you follow like this, 40-step process to set up this exact document. You can do that, but I implore you to play around a little bit with ER because it is very powerful. And a lot of things come in this release. I might bunch some of these up into one, actually, to not have to say too much. But for instance, we have some performance enhancements for memory consumption at ER runtime. We have also the little thing that the Dataverse repository has become mandatory, or the feature is mandatory at least, for using Dataverse as a repository. I hope anyone who's using ER with their own models that they need to maintain have already made that shift a long time ago and are not using like export import functionality. But it's come a long way, ER, and with this feature, you see a lot of performance enhancements. So if you're suffering with some performance-related issues in ER, you should have a look at these. Specifically memory consumption and a lot of little nice features that should enable you to have fast output. It's powerful, but at the same time, I mean, it gives you access basically to the entire database. So you can do things very, very wrong in ER as well if you don't know what you're doing. So powerful, but be careful.
Yes. Yes. So I also have a couple of electronic reporting subjects of interest.
Yes.
So this one is actually also related to batch jobs. So when we use electronic reporting, we usually use batch jobs as with everything else to send things. And when an electronic reporting job fails for some reason, there is, I mean, the batch framework has an automation which says that it retries things, and in electronic reporting that might actually be a really really bad thing, because it might get the status failed even though the document was actually sent, because something happened after the document was sent which meant that it ended up in a failed state. Which means that if you have a retry feature for the batch job, it actually tries to send the document again, and it works, but it fails. So it sends it again, and it works, but
it's a nightmare.
That's the really. I mean, customers aren't happy with one invoice. If they get 20,000 invoices, that's worse.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest nightmare of all, right? If the one big batch job went wrong, it sent these invoices to a lot of customers, and I mean if they've left Dynamics, you have no control. I mean you can have multiple delivery mechanisms. You can have email, e-invoice, as long as it's left Dynamics. Yeah, that's scary. It's a very scary procedure, and you have no control of the customer systems as well. If they get an email, maybe not a problem, right? But let's say you have an external service where you pay for them to print and they don't have duplicate control. It can create a lot of havoc if you're not doing it right. And again, back to my first feature here, the Customer Invoice Logging Framework, that will only tell you that the batch job posted the invoice properly. And if you have automated printing as well, probably that will also be caught, right? So you will see an error. But posting is not the same as printing always. So delivery to the end customer is also something that you need to be mindful of.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. And another ER, while we're on the ER subject here, and I think this is one of your favorite subjects as well, is the Key Vault addition to ER, right? Um,
Yes.
maybe you want to say a few words on that one.
Yes. So in general, I like Key Vault. Key Vault is a very good thing because it means that we can keep secrets in a secret place so that people don't find them. But I realized the other week that there is another really, really good reason why we should use key vaults in more places. And especially, we should encourage Microsoft to get more key vault things in the system. All secrets should be in Key Vault, and I would argue that more than the secret things should be in Key Vault. Other things should also be in Key Vault, and the reason is when you do a refresh of an environment, you can use Key Vault as sort of an environment variable place. Because when you do a refresh, you do the entire database, which means that production parameters is put in UAT, which is generally a problem. But if you
Yeah,
keep them in Key Vault and you have the same name, then you only need to connect Key Vault, and all of a sudden, presto, all of the variables are in place,
yeah,
which is the fantastic thing.
it's a very nice thing, and that's a common problem I know for database movement operations, where you have not only from a European at least GDPR perspective with all the sensitive data that might come from production, you also have all of these paths and API keys and all the stuff that goes into actually making an application work with external systems. So it's a very good point. Everyone should
And
have a key vault.
the system is fairly good at wiping things that shouldn't be moved to another
Yeah,
system. That's a good thing. So all of the application registrations and stuff are being moved and
yeah, definitely.
disabled and stuff, and batch jobs are being disabled and things. But there is other kinds of configuration which you absolutely don't want to end up in a new environment.
Mm.
So, and I mean, I would argue that what if we could publish a list of all users that is supposed to be enabled in this environment in UAT? That would take away a lot of jobs, a lot of work for us.
Yeah, definitely. I
Uh,
mean, you could do a lot of these things with. I mean, our friend with the admin, we can use the admin toolkit for importing with Alex and Andres, our friends' help. You can do a lot of these things automation. I think the point is, Keyboard is a very good thing to have, as you said. To the problem is maybe not getting the data clean from production. The problem is getting the environment back up to speed with all the integrations, right? So you need to do a
yes,
lot of
yes,
manual setup. So I
yeah.
totally agree that key vaults are. Everyone should have a key vault or two.
The more key vault we have, the better it is. I
Yeah,
would say.
maybe more key vaults as well for segregational purposes.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think that's good because then we could just put in the URLs for the key vaults and then everything is fine. So
Everything's fine.
that's good.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes, yes. So key vault it is. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I have a couple more smaller ones. My favorite application outside of Dynamics is Commerce, of course. I noticed, and maybe sad for some people, but Bing Maps, if you remember that one, is being replaced now with Azure Maps. I mean, not a big surprise, I would imagine, but it will basically shift any geographical lookups that you have in Commerce, where it's like store locations and stuff. It will shift to Azure Maps instead. Not a big change, right? But I just thought it was fun to see Bing Maps. I haven't seen it in a while. And but one of the bigger things in commerce is the continued addition of pricing management functionality. And to be honest, I mean, this has been going on for a couple of releases, right? You've been getting more and more functionality of pricing management. I don't remember which one is coming in which release, but you get more custom price attributes now for POS and e-commerce. So, I mean, combined with the CSU scalability, as we have discussed on many episodes here, and with the new pricing attributes, it's a really powerful tool of enabling your pricing, very dynamic pricing as well. Bearing in mind, of course, performance aspects. But now you can implement custom attributes within the CSU, minimum customization. You have a lot of flexibility, which you previously, at least before pricing management, you had to do a lot of customizations within commerce to achieve. So it gives you a lot of options to achieve your pricing and to get snappy responses from any third-party application that needs to look up prices and get the same price experience across all your channels. So that's really cool.
Yes, cool. My final one is actually something that I know at least two of my colleagues will be really, really, really happy about, and that's the new warehousing app. So Microsoft has this mobile app and Windows app that you can use for line workers in the warehouses to do inventory, to do picking lists and stuff. And it's been released in a version V4, so it's a new version, new and improved, of course.
Definitely, I love the mobile device app because it has a nicer UI and it allows to streamline some of the operations that you can do in advanced warehousing. So happy for all the supply chain workers out there that now get a new fancy shiny version of it. Yep. I have two smaller ones left. I can just bunch two of them into one. I haven't worked with it a lot, but I know for a fact that I know reconciliation in itself is a tedious process. Now we have reconciliation agents, so we have a lot of tools at our disposal to help automate the reconciliation. Even if you're not using the agent, you can still rely on like manual reconciliation. But I've seen in 45 there are more features than one coming in for helping out with the matching of reconciliation rules, like matching bank account numbers, IBAN, to bank account number fields for vendors. So there's a lot of additions and improvements to the automatic vendor account matching, as well as the optimized auto settlement. So it increase of performance in handling cash and bank and automatic reconciliation. Some code changes, basically, maybe not some fancy new features, but I know also in some cases we have seen performance degradation when you're doing these kind of imports of bank statement files. If you are one of those with this scenario, you should try out version 45 and see if it improves your experience, because it's a powerful framework and it can help out a lot. But if it suffers for performance or functionality, I think it's really good to see that they're adding new functions and features in the versions. And one small one, but I think it's for me it's a big one. Maybe it's just a small feature, but it's within sales and marketing, and it's a feature called I think it's actually called Enable Lookup Based Search for a Sales External Item Identifier field. I wonder who decides the naming of the feature. Is it the developer or is it I'm not sure. I should look into that. But what it does is that you have item numbers, item ID, released products. So the legal entity specific item number, which is connected to a master product across legal entities. And normal reasoning here is that you want to have this from a performance perspective. You don't want a lot of different logic going into this item number. At least that's a philosophy. So you have a number sequence, it's a numeric number sequence. You might have legacy reasons for that. But then you might have customer item identifiers, or you might have another item identifier because all your sales clerks work with a different number. But when you're working within a sales order, you need to work with either the search name or the item ID to find the product easily when adding a sales order line. This feature actually allows you to use the external item identifier and search for it. So if you add the column, I tried this out as well, and it works quite well actually. So if you have an external item number and you have it connected to a customer, either via the customer directly or via the customer group or all, then you can add, just in the grid, move in the field called external, and then you can do search for that number just as easily as you search for a regular item number, line by line. And I thought it was really cool. And it's a little thing that I see different workarounds on, in some cases customizations as well. So it's nice to see that there is a possibility to handle this within the standard product now.
Yes. Yep. Cool. So I don't have anything else.
No, me neither.
Nope.
I implore you again to look into the feature release or the feature release notes, as well as, now we're basically talking about mainly new features or changed features. But there's also, as we've said a couple times before, features becoming mandatory, changing states. which you will notice. So if that's also very important to look at for each release. Like compare, there might be a little time bomb for you there in some features. I've seen issues with VAT calculation, mainly if you have some customizations. If you don't have customizations, normally you shouldn't worry too much. But if you do have customizations, a feature that changes state from being inactivated to on by default might cause disruptions. So it's important to read up on those and see, okay, I need to test this out very thoroughly.
Yep. Cool. It's really nice to be back again. Our first episode after summer. So hoping there will be more of them. And there will be. We are looking for interviewee people right now. So if you have a chance and you think you know someone that we need to talk to, let us know. We are on LinkedIn and you can also email us. So with that, have a nice day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.